How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Switch Stance series, where I'm going to be breaking down your favorite switch stance freestyle moves. In this one, it's going to be one of my favorite switch moves, and that is of course the burner and some of its variations. So without further ado, let's dive into what a burner is and why you should learn it. The burner is a cartwheel rotation 540 degrees from the back-winded position. It's a super fun feeling move and you can get really creative with it, and it's actually one of the first moves that feels like a proper windsurfing power move. Before we start then, what do we need to know before we're able to go for burners? Well, of course we need to be able to go switch and duck the sail at speed. For that, if you can't do it, I've got a tutorial. You can click it up here and that will give you a full rundown, so get comfortable with that first. I would also recommend being able to funnel first. Being able to funnel will give you that exit control, and it's also a much more toned down version of the burner. And of course we need lots of speed and lots of power. You need a lot more power for a burner than you would do for a funnel, so make sure you're at a spot with lots of wind and ideally nice flat water. The biggest misconception when first learning the burner is that people feel like you need to do the cartwheel rotation on the spot. In fact, you really need to be doing this rotation while you're traveling forward in the direction when you were going switch, in order to give yourself more stability and more power on the landing. If you cartwheel over the side, you're going to really struggle with this later down the rotation. So it's a really important thing to know before you even start learning. We want to travel forwards. Okay, first things first, before we take off, we need to look at the angle that we're going to take off from. So we really want to build up as much power in the sail before we take off for the burner. We want as much height as possible, and we're going to use the power in that sail to generate the height and also the rotation, which is going to be essential to make sure you make that landing. In order to give ourselves more power then, what we're going to do is we're going to slightly carve the board slowly up towards and across the wind so that we generate more power. The more power we have, the more we can release, which is going to generate that whip. In order to generate this power then, make sure that your weight is fully over the sail with straight arms so that you can load up that sail. Make sure your toes are over the center line of the board and carving that upwind rail to slowly bring yourself more across the wind. This part of being on your toes is really important because it's going to give you a lot more resistance against the sail to generate that power. Whereas if you're on your heels, it's very easy for the sail to power up, push you backwards, and we're going to be in the complete wrong position before we even take off for the burner. If you're nicely powered up, once you get to around across the wind, you're ready to then load up the sail. However, if you're a little bit underpowered, carving even further into the wind is going to generate more power in the sail, more whip, and it's going to help you get round in those underpowered conditions. A small thing that can make a really big difference before you even take off is actually your hand position on the boom. Really make sure that front hand is right by the harness lines as you're loading up the sail and throughout the whole burner, so that you've got full control of the sail as your hands are going to be close to that center of effort of the sail. If your hands are in the right position, you're slowly carving across the wind and you've got plenty of power in the sail, it's now time to start initiating that burner. As I said at the top of this video, it's essential that we focus on throwing ourselves, the sail and the board as far forward into the rotation for the burner as possible. So remember this at this point. This is why we're going to throw the sail in a very similar manner to an air funnel when we take off for the burner. We want to throw that sail up, forwards and towards the apparent wind to help generate that initial lift for the move. The biggest mistake I see when people are first learning to burner is they're really eager to do that cartwheel rotation straight away. However, if you do this, not only is it quite unsafe, as you're just going to throw this mast straight at the water, but you're never going to get the lift and height that you need in order to get back into that back-winded position, which is the ultimate goal for learning to burner. Once you've thrown that sail up and forwards for the initiation, the nose of the board should be coming up and the tail should just be about to leave the water. It's then time to initiate the cartwheel rotation. For this, looking into the rotation, you want to bring the sail in front of you across the board and then down around your body. At this point, really try to focus on bringing your front hand closer to your body in order to expose the back-winded side of the sail once again to the wind. If you have the new side of the sail catch the wind, all that's going to happen is the sail is going to then pull you down onto the water and you're not going to land upright over the board in that back-winded position once again. If this is something you're struggling with, one of my biggest tips would be to go for the burner one-handed. It might seem a little bit intimidating to start with, however, it's more likely that you're going to put the sail in the right position to end up again back in that back-winded position. This can also be a really good technique to do in stronger winds because it's a good way of dumping the power so you don't have too much whip and you don't over-rotate the burner. This can also be really useful when you're sailing in chop or even trying burners off waves. Obviously, when we throw the sail so aggressively around our body, we need time for our board and our body to then catch up. Make sure to leave the sail in this position so your body and board then catch up, and then you can land into that back-winded position. That's where you get these iconic burner photos, is in the position where the sail is left still and you're then rotating around the sail. I really want to feel like the sail is still giving me lift throughout the whole rotation. You should never be falling round a burner. You should always have lift and power in the sail, and this is how we stay so upright throughout the rotation. Once your board and your body have caught up with the rest of the rotation, you should have now done most of the burner. All that's left to do is spot the landing. Make sure you land with that sail back in front of you so that you're in that same back-winded position that you took off. And from here, all you're doing is the end of a funnel or a pugnetta. You're just doing the end of an upwind 360 out, still looking into the rotation so that you can then open up with lots of power and sail away from the maneuver. So guys, my top tips to round out this video for the burner: remember, throw everything forward, your weight, the sail, your body, so that you travel forwards throughout the whole rotation. Try to maintain power throughout the whole of the maneuver by keeping that front arm closer to your body as you come around, and be patient. Make sure that you let that board and your body catch up with the sail throughout the rotation so that you're then ready to land in that back-winded position. As one of my favorite moves, it would be rude of me not to mention a little bit more about the no-handed burner. The no-handed burner is actually a lot more achievable than lots of people think. All you need to do is session those one-handed burners, and once you're confident with that, place that sail up and forwards like you would normally, and just release the front hand, let the sail go, and naturally, if you've put the sail on the right course, your body will do the rotation and the sail will end up in the right place. Actually, I've pushed a few people to try this, and actually Martin, who's helping film these videos, tried on his second attempt. He landed a perfect one in the lagoon. So it's really achievable, and I would really push for people to go for this move because it's just one of the best feelings in windsurfing, in my opinion, of course. But yeah, that's a wrap for the burner, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on more tutorials and more fun content that we're getting up to here in Jericoacoara and for the rest of the winter. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in a future video.